I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a way of respecting, honoring, and creating awareness about our past, we begin our village board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people.
I just wanted to add item number 3 to this business agenda regarding the water rate increase that we've been discussing. I did not have any other additions or changes to the agenda, so I'd like to move the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then, Alice, do you want to tell us a little bit about the webinar you participated in regarding the census?
Yeah, thanks. So it was a webinar. It was like a thank you webinar for all the census partners in New York, which the village of New Paltz was a partner. And I was just really impressed by some of the numbers of what the effort looked like, and also the timeline of when we get some of the data, because it's actually a much longer timeline of like when they prepare this data than I really ever understood or imagined. So basically, like starting, as soon as 2020 starts, we'll start getting, information from, this past decennial census. But that being said, some of that information will come out in some of those other census reports that are more about housing and whatnot. And it will basically come out over time between now and end of 2023. And there will be another webinar that I signed us up for early in the new year that will kind of cover that whole timeline of data and stuff. So it's interesting because like when I first, got elected and took an interest in, doing what we could with the decennial census, which does determine, our representation and our funding, our resources for the next decade. I heard the census representatives say like the U.S. Census is our largest peacetime operation, like non-military operation. I heard them say it a million times. It's like a catchy phrase and stuff, but what I learned today like really like exemplifies that. So in New York State alone, they hired 43,276 field staff during a pandemic, so it wasn't even the numbers that, they would have done had it been what they were expecting, right? What we all were expecting out of this year. So that's interesting. There were 219,644 applicants, and the census selected to hire 101,318 of those applicants. And so, wound up hiring 43,276 out of that. That's a lot of people that participated in this that were hired, that were paid. So then in New York State, we were one of 23,154 active partners, active meaning like actually communicating with them like every single day. We had 2 different partner specialists, Carol and Jonathan, who, kind of became my best friends for a little while there, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. Fun fact, Jonathan, actually his real job is with the Knicks. Just wanted to throw that out there. So very impressed. I didn't find that out until after the fact. Anyway, we held a number of events, they're virtual, of the 22,103 census events that happened in our state. That all happened because of, people like all of us that are just like, oh, we gotta have a live stream, or, we gotta get posters out and stuff. And then there were 40,000 565 commitments. And what they mean by commitments is, not like just a social media posting, but this is where, us putting the information up on the village website like counts as one of those commitments. And then me getting that box of posters that I got out to some of our big apartment complexes and to campus and some businesses about how to do the census, and also to the Crust and Magic booth at the open air market. That counts as like one commitment, if that makes sense. So to me, that was like my life for, for a good chunk of the past year, and it counts as one commitment. So thinking about how that plays out across New York State is really cool. So I just want to share that and just give a heads up that I'll give another check-in once we get that next webinar that goes over like the whole data timeline. I can also share that whole slide presentation when they email it to me.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. Thanks for providing that update, Alex. And I also wanted to take a moment to list the various emergency service departments that helped during the fire on Springtown Road on Monday night. So clearly the New Paltz Fire Department, and then there were also departments from Highland, Modena, Tilson, Riften, Gardner, and Plattekill responding. The New Paltz Police Department were involved, New York State Troopers, New Paltz Rescue Squad, Ulster County Highway. The New Paltz Village DPW got called in late in the evening to help with a water main break. Ulster County Department of Emergency Management, and the fire department in New Paltz's auxiliary group. And also Central Hudson was called in to help during the incident. So just wanted to take time to list all the parties and to emphasize that we're incredibly thankful.
Can I share two more announcements?
Yep.
Sorry. So I did want to share that the Village Hall Ecoscaping Pollinator Project has a soil building, not a soil, is going to build soil outside Village Hall on Saturday, December 19th at noon. So if you are interested in helping do that while, obviously masked up and socially distanced, or if you have spare compost or cardboard and stuff, get in touch. But if you just want to come see how to build soil, I'll be there, Riley will be there, and we welcome you. There's a rain date the next day, December 20th at the same time. So that project's going ahead nicely.
Green sauce.
And then my other announcement is about the skate garden to be built in Hasbrook Park. We're having the next general meeting on this Sunday, which I think is the 13th at 6:00 p.m. on Zoom. And I will keep circling like that info on social media. And
We have that Zoom link yet? Do we have the Zoom link for that Sunday evening meeting yet?
I don't have it yet. Let's get that. Yeah.
Okay.
Could we, and if we get that, if you could make that, that'd be awesome.
Totally.
Then we can put it in the minutes.
Okay,
Alex,
great.
you really need cardboard? Because I have a lot of it.
I actually was thinking of you.
I mean, I'm sharing boxes with people who are in need, but I have just in abundance. So I'll be able to share some of that as well.
There's a couple of us on my block across the street from Village Hall who have pretty good cardboard collections because, we're environmentalists. So yeah, I'll definitely hit you up.
Great. I have a little announcement with the Bike Ped Committee. It's just a fun one. Thought it'd be nice to put something light in there. We are working on a logo for the Bike Ped Committee because there's just so many amazing things going on with them that we thought it'd be great to have a logo. So look for that soon, Village Board, because we'll be sending that your way for final approval.
And then I had a final announcement. So a while ago, our village board approved using an RFP for the Oliver House. We're waiting to complete the transaction where the village would take ownership of the house from Stewart's, and then we can officially encourage contractors or other organizations to provide us with proposals that would address restoring the property. So one thing that we've done, and our building inspector, Corey Worthman, has been helping with this, is almost like doing like a formal building inspection of the property. So we felt like that would be good to provide some notes to individuals who would be looking carefully at the property and just assessing the situation. So that's something that's in the midst of being worked on that I wanted to mention. And that's all I had as far as announcements for this evening.
I should just do a quick COVID update, just urging people to continue to social distance, wear masks, stay at home as much as you can. Our numbers are going up very fast. And I encourage everybody to watch Pat Ryan's Tuesday and Thursday 2:00 updates, and Governor Cuomo as well, because the speed of the trajectory, the state could come out at any moment letting us know new guidelines that we'll need to communicate to everybody. But as predicted, the second wave is pretty bad and worse than even some predicted. So we're still not seeing the full bump in the numbers from whatever impact increased exposure people had over the Thanksgiving holiday, because there's a lag, many lags, both just getting the data all the way up to the county. So there can be I guess a 2-week lag, according to Dr. Fauci, who's on Cuomo's briefer the other day. So continued vigilance and stay tuned, because we expect more guidance soon as the numbers rise.
Was Mark Blauer going to participate in this evening's call? Is that why we have public hearing? Is he on the line?
Yes, I am, Mayor.
Oh, great. I'll let you take it, Mark. Go ahead. Thanks.
Okay. I'll give a very short presentation, perhaps a minute, and at that point I'll suggest that the village board open the public hearing to comments. For the record, the village was a recipient in December 2018, 2 years ago, of a $750,000 community development block grant project. The project number is 793 PR 10418. That is money from the State Office of Community Renewal. We won that grant through a competitive process called the Consolidated Funding Application process. We actually applied in July of 2018. We were awarded in December 2018. The project was designed during 2019. It went to bid in early 2020. The project is complete. The project was completed by Amity Construction. The original estimate cost was $784,550, of which $750,000 was a grant. The project was estimated to continue the village's long-term effort to address the infiltration inflow issues that resulted in 2003 in the still current consent order, where we have to make progress with our sanitary sewer system to satisfy the DEP, or the DEC. And this is an incremental project that is aimed at eventually lifting the consent order. We originally intended to install or rehabilitate roughly 1,200 feet of existing sewer main, reline and replace sewer main, replace manholes, redo the lateral connections, and do site restoration. That work was completed this summer. Amity Construction, in my experience, was a very fine firm. Their paperwork was excellent in terms of compliance with all the applicable rules. We're holding this hearing tonight because we're required to have a second public hearing to ask the public what they thought of the project. And we function on various streets. And this is an opportunity for people to say what they thought about the project and what they think about our continuing efforts to address the consent order. The other point of the hearing tonight is that we have another opportunity coming up sometime in 2021 to apply for the same program. My best guess is that the program that was delayed from July will be open perhaps in January, at which point in March or April, a similar application will be due. So at this point, I'd like to open suggest that the village board open formally the hearing the public comment. If anybody has a comment, identify themselves to the record so Ariana can identify who they are. We'll produce a transcript at the end of this and eventually send it to the state as part of our closeout. Thank you.
I motion that we open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a comment, but I'll let anyone else go first if they want.
Just thank you, Mark.
You're very welcome.
So my comment is I absolutely look forward to applying again. The village has secured these grants in the past. It's this incredibly important work that we update our sewer conveyance system. Remember, it rained incredibly hard a few days ago. And, you know, that was another example of why this work is so important. So, you know, what happens during crazy rain events is we have a ton of stormwater that infiltrates our sanitary system. And then there's not enough room for the poop in the sanitary system. So then the poop ends up being discharged through maintenance hole covers directly onto our streets, particularly further downtown. And, you know, that's why we're under a consent order from the New York State DEC, because we have to fix this. You know, it's very problematic that sewage does not get sent through our multi-million-dollar sewer plant. You know, the sewer plant has adequate capacity for our community, but what we struggle with is aged out conveyance, where it just can't handle the volume when it rains. We have no problem handling volumes as long as it never rains. But when it rains, then we're creating a huge mess.
That might be a good time to remind everyone that climate change predictions for our region all include increased rain precipitation.
Well, and another simple thing that folks can do is our Wait to Wash, Wait to Flush campaign. So if it's raining and you don't feel like enjoying the outside and you think it might be better to stay home and do laundry, you should go and take a walk in the rain and enjoy the outdoors and do your laundry when it's nice out. I motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we also have the public hearing for our short-term rental law. You know, we opened it at our last meeting, and you know, as we discussed during that time, that we want to you know, be very patient so we can get the word out about this proposed law. And you know, we got a little feedback since we opened it last time. We had a few emails sent to us. It's a mixed bag. Folks who feel like they have not heard of a need for this law, and other folks who have said that they've spoken to individuals in our community and believe that this law will be a welcome addition. So we've posted the written comments. They're available on this agenda. And if we have anyone here this evening, they can make a comment in real time. But you know, as we stated, we want to be super patient. Hope the press covers this. Hope people talk about it on social media. We find that you know, the more patient we are, and the more individuals who get to hear about this, then we'll get the feedback that we think is really important before adopting any law. So Ariana, are there any folks like in the waiting room wanting to make a comment about this proposal?
I think everyone is already in the meeting who wants to make a comment.
So Anne, if you wanted to make a comment. Did we lose Anne?
Inside Tapas Barbecue.
There she is.
Hi. So I had my audio off and my camera off because I was conferring with my partner. So are we at the part for comments?
Yeah, go ahead. You have the floor. You feel free to make your comment.
Thank you very much. So we are just reading this now. And our comments were basically that we've been full-time residential homeowners for 14 years. And we acknowledge that the village has always been pretty lean on housing stock and it's increasingly unaffordable. And we would like to welcome people from diverse communities, and more absentee landlord income property means a lot less potential for community. You know, they're already, students are lovely, but you know, they have no stake in the village and the balance is kind of topsy-turvy. Where we are, if you go a block north and south, a block east and west, only about 40% of the houses are owner occupied. So, you know, we like what we saw in the short-term rental law.
Well, I think I would add that renters can be long-term residents, and we like the idea of renters living in our community. You know, I'd love to twist the arm of more renters and have them serve on, you know, planning board or ZBA or volunteer at the, you know, at the library fair. You know, whether you own or rent and you're long-term, I think, you know, that's incredibly important when we consider, you know, how a community functions. You know, we can go back to our firefighter example. You could be a renter and be a volunteer firefighter and serve your community. If you're a guest in a short-term rental and your permanent residence is somewhere else, by law, you cannot be a volunteer firefighter. And that's just how communities like ours work. We rely on volunteers and we rely on a certain type of community character.
Yeah, and right now, Tim, a great number of renters, if you will, are members of our fire department who live in the village and the town. Quite a number. Tend to be younger.
And then what we're trying to do with this law too is to provide flexibility. So if you live in a residential zone and you want to go on vacation and monetize the value of your property and use a short-term rental service, you can. And you know, go away for a time, rent out your house, and you know, make some money to you know, to afford your vacation. We think, you know, the flexibility that we've created in this proposal makes a great deal of sense. And, you know, the other concept that we're trying to put forward is that residentially zoned districts do not allow hotels. And if you have a 12-month of year property that functions as a short-term rental property, it effectively becomes a hotel. And you know, that's why in this law, we also identified commercially zoned districts where you could do short-term rentals in a commercially zoned district. So we're trying to be mindful of, you know, a few different concepts. And then the other concept too is, and we're trying to improve the language so it's especially clear, like let's say an individual lives in their home full-time, but then hosts short-term guests. If you're there full-time as a full-time host, we can make a distinction between that short-term rental practice versus when there's no one who you know, has a long-term stake in the property staying there. So we're trying to, you know, create a few lines of distinction to make sure that this law makes sense. But you know, as I emphasized, we want to keep this open. You know, hopefully folks will comment on what we've discussed and add other feedback, and we'll get more thoughts on the pros and cons of this proposal. So if that's it for this evening, anyone else who's on this Zoom and wants to comment is welcome. Just wave your hand and we can turn your mic on.
Thanks,
Otherwise,
Ann and partner.
yeah. Otherwise, we can. Okay, there. Mike Henry, did you want to make your comment?
Yeah, just because maybe I'm the original short-term renter from years back. I'm not doing it now, but I have some experience and I've thought a great deal about this, and I just thought I'd weigh in. I don't necessarily have a horse in the race here, but I have rented to students. I did the short term back in 2013 for a little while, but that was me it wasn't a hotel. It was sort of splitting my time as, I was trying to find a path to sort of relocating permanently back here, which I have now. But at the time I was sort of working in the city. I think like many of you maybe on this call have, trying to figure out a way to get back into the community, sort of a way to buy in without the burden of 2 mortgages or 2 rents. The short-term income helped me out a great deal. I would sort of advocate preserving it in some way. And I think, sort of limiting the number of days or requiring a residency, like, I don't know what that is, filing your taxes here or whatever, may limit people's ability to sort of enter this housing market, which I emailed some of you on the board, just in my current kind of part-time role as an agent. I primarily work with people who are looking for second homes up here. And I have quite a queue of people that are sort of looking in. So I would say with some confidence that a good amount of inventory that sort of comes available is going to be sort of snatched up by second home owners, and at least during this COVID kind of boom that's happening right now, versus opening up a bunch of affordable and moderate priced, housing. So I guess I'll end my ramble by saying that I think it's a good idea to have rules around it and registration, and have a local agent and a good neighbor policy. I would even advocate limiting ownership to 1 property by any individual, like Stone Ridge has. But my suggestion would be to allow people to do that. Otherwise, I think you're going to continue to see, and it's not necessarily an issue. It's always been a fact of the New Paltz and Gardner and the surrounding areas. But I don't think it's going to necessarily open up inventory to folks kind of looking for a way to buy in. Rather, I think it's going to limit their ability to perhaps get into the housing market or stay in the housing market.
Yeah, I read your note earlier, Mike, and thanks for sharing your thoughts. It's definitely appreciated, and I think you bring up some interesting points.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Anyone else this evening, or definitely sleep on it and get back to us either via email or at an upcoming meeting?
Yeah, Francine Sutherland had wanted to submit a comment, but work got in the way of, getting to that. So I guess, if we can leave it open, I know there's more comments coming from some fellow long-term renters here.
Yeah, we should definitely, I think we're all on the same page
Cool.
in terms of leaving it open.
All right, got you, Fran.
So before we move forward, I know there's other folks. Is there anybody else that wanted to say anything on this topic? Last call. Okay, thanks everyone. We're going to keep it open.
Okay, do we have anyone who wants to make a public comment on any other topic in the world? Okay, then let's.
I I just saw Don on here a second ago, and I know he wrote to me about making a comment, so I'm not sure if he's just coming back on or.
Well, even if he swings back, we can entertain a comment then. So let's continue with our agenda. I'd like to motion that we move the consent agenda, but I definitely wanted to verbally thank Vicki Danskin. She's hanging up her hat after serving on the Zoning Board of Appeals for a very long time. So thanks, Vicki, for all your service, and great example of how communities rely on permanent residents. Motion to move the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone want to tackle item number 1? Okay, I'm gonna then suggest that we continue, and we have Nadine Thomas here. So Nadine, you're interested in serving as the neutral party seat on the Landlord-Tenant Relations Council. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your interest in serving in this role?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, we've lived in New Paltz for almost 3 years now. We moved out here from the city, and I'm now retired. And I find myself with a certain amount of time on my hands, for one thing. And I really would like to become involved in the community in any way that I can. As far as disclosure, Margot Jepson, who is also on the committee as a landlord, is my neighbor. And so we were talking, and she mentioned, she mentioned that there was a position available for a neutral party and that I might be interested in it. And I am very interested. As I had said, I wrote a letter, and moving to New Paltz has made me aware of a lot of different situations as far as housing goes. And this is a place where there are a great many people renting, like living in rented places. The students are renting, and like other people are renting. And I think it has a lot to do with, like the quality of life here, the issues that go on, like with between homeowners and renters and landlords. So I'm not, I'm not sure exactly what I can bring to the discussion, but I'm very interested in trying to maintain the quality of life here and make things better for people and the whole community. So in any way that I can. So that's mainly my interest.
Can you tell us a little bit about your professional background and how you feel some of your background could be applicable to this work?
Well, I'm not sure about my professional background contributing. I worked for many years in the fashion industry as a designer. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Fashion Design, and I worked in the industry for 38 years. So I wouldn't say that really applies to, like this board. I would say, though, that, I lived in New York City for all those years and as a renter, so I had a lot of issues there. There were a lot of different situations, and I could see that, there are great things about renting. There are some not so great things, and I had a lot of experiences with that could guide me, could advise me as far as, like situations that come up. So I'm not sure, like, I don't have any professional background that relates to, like any kind of housing situation or anything like that. My main interest is not coming from a place where I have a great knowledge, more like my experience, life experience, more than my professional background, because it's not really related to, housing or.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a perfectly reasonable explanation. And you're looking to be a neutral party. So you're currently neither a tenant nor a landlord.
That's right. When we first moved here, we saw the rental situation, and our neighbors across the street have a number of houses that they rent to students, and we thought, oh, well, that might be a way to make some money. And so we were considering getting involved in that, but that situation hasn't come up, so we haven't really moved on it. But it's something, like it's obvious. It's something that we weren't aware of as much before we moved here.
Out of water, I'm pretty sure that underwater.
Oh. But we see now, like that's well, now that we're living here and there are apartments all, like student housing around is quite a lot.
Any board members have questions for Nadine?
Well, Nadine just answered the questions I had in her responses to yours. I know you mentioned being a tenant already. Have you ever been a landlord? It's great that you've considered being a landlord, so you can be, you have the experience from the tenant side, and you can see the other side, and you're in that neutral position. That's just really exciting to me. I did want to interject that, your fashion design experience, I'm sure we can connect it. I think Margot probably filled you in on all the comms, outreach, social media plans and stuff. So I'm sure somehow your eye could be helpful in that way. So just wanted to say that.
I hope so.
It's always relevant. Yeah.
That would be good.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is all of our first pandemic. So I can't even ask have you ever experienced housing in a pandemic? But have you had any not so great experiences back when you were a renter in the city? You don't have to share the whole story, but yeah.
What, with landlords?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I never had a vampire landlord or anything like that. But I mean, one building we moved into in the East Village, it had just been renovated, and the services weren't turned on yet. So everybody moved into the building, and we had no water, and the electricity there was an extension cord that went to the building behind us that powered the building. So there's a group called the Met Council down in the city, and we sat down with them. They they give free advice to tenant groups. So we withheld rent, until we had services, and that kind of relationship. I mean, we didn't dislike the landlord. He wasn't a bad guy. He just wasn't providing what we needed. I mean, we needed water, and electricity. So there was another time when there was a fire in the restaurant downstairs in a building that I lived in. So of course, Con Ed turned off all of the gas to the whole building, and it was off for a very long time, so we couldn't cook. So, we withheld rent for that, and as soon as we got our services back, then we gave them rent. It wasn't, I never had a landlord that I disliked or resented, really. There were issues, but we worked them out, that worked.
That's good to hear, because that's exactly what the Landlord Tenant Relations Council, does. It's such a vital role. And in these times, it's been wild. Just how many people reach out, for help with that relationship. How do I navigate? I'm a tenant. I'm not getting, these needs met. How do I proceed? And just the group together working with tenants and also landlords, like with kind of even just drafting, like, why don't you just try saying this, you know, did you try just sending them a text, you know, like, and then like it could be that simple, but then sometimes, you know, like your example of the Met Council, you know, and often referring people, you know, up to legal services of the Hudson Valley and other resources like that. So it's cool that you have like experience of your own on that end.
Yeah, and we've found since living here that I mean, we've had some issues with some of the students of, you know, like rental apartments, the rental houses around in our neighborhood. I mean, it's mostly parking issues because, you know, everybody's got cars and then their friends all come over and then the street is like lined with cars. And also there's a certain amount of noise. But like, for instance, the house behind us, there was a student band and they played in the garage and it was kind of loud sometimes. And also my husband is a composer and a musician and it really bothers him if like drummers are out of time. So he was freaking out, you know, because the music was not good. So eventually he went down and talked to them about the music and he also offered to help them soundproof their garage a little bit more so that it would work, you know, like, and I thought that was a great solution. And we've found that basically when the students are moving in, we communicate with them and, you know, like talk to them. And if we can talk to their parents, we talk to them. But we get their contact information and just, you know, like tell them certain things like we'd rather not have them park in front of our house if they can help it. Things like that, you know, but communicating with them and telling what we want. And then they're, you know, like sometimes they'll tell us if they're having a party. I mean, not right now. Well, some people have parties, but they're not having parties. But when they were, you know, they'd say, well, we're having a party, you know, we hope it won't bother you. But, you know, like it was nice. It was nice to have that relationship. And I think sometimes people don't necessarily reach out ahead of problems to kind of like make sure that everybody knows where they all stand and what we want, you know, like, or what we would like them to do or not do. So anyway, this communication.
Thanks. Those are some awesome examples that make me really excited.
Yeah, that sounds good. Did your husband have any advice regarding like the drumming?
I'm not sure that, I don't think that he actually dealt with that issue because he thought, well, yeah, if a drummer doesn't have time, they're probably not going to, you know, make it. He's much more sensitive about the sound, like especially the music. I can tolerate a lot of music. If it's not well played, he has a lot of trouble tolerating it.
It sounds like you guys worked it out though. That's awesome to hear. It's such a good example. I love it.
Well, you know, but the students are one reason why we moved to New Paltz, because there's a, you know, there's a energy here. It's youthful. There's culture that a lot of the towns don't have, you know, like up here. And so, you know, it's good to get to know the students a little bit, or at least live with them, you know, in a good way. So it helps.
I'm excited, but if anyone had any other questions, I don't know, sorry.
Yeah, nothing else. If not, I'd like to motion to appoint Nadine to the position of neutral on the Landlord-Tenant Relations Council. Is that for a particular term, Ariana?
It's for 2 years.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much, Nadine.
Cool.
This is going to
Thank you
be
very much.
great.
I'm excited now.
Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you, Nadine.
Thanks a lot.
So I see Don Kurzbach. Don, did you want to make a public comment?
Yeah. Good evening. Hope you're all well. There were a couple items that came up at the most recent planning board meeting where I'm a liaison from the EPB, and the discussion carried over into the Environmental Policy Board meeting last evening. The first had to do with a project that Floyd Niffen is proposing off of Millbrook Road. And the builders followed all the rules. There's no bad guys. Everyone has good intentions. So I don't want to make the wrong impression. We made a site visit because there were some concerns at the planning board meeting regarding the width of the road that had been built, whether it was for well drilling or for a residential development, the placement of a well, and the placement of septic fields. So we went there and took a look on Monday. And everything looks good. Where the septic fields are going to be is the safest place for those particular sites, but these lots are adjoining the Millbrook Preserve and Tributary 13, which is the most bacterially, fecally compromised trib feeding into the Wallkill. So no one wants to have, if there's an alternative, more septic systems in that location. This larger property, there are, I think, 5 lots, and the expectation to build condos at some point in the future. And this property was subdivided. And it was subdivided properly and legally, but because it was subdivided, each individual project is being looked at as an island on its own. And there's no cumulative look of the 3 homes and the condos, the proposed condos, and there's no cumulative look at this development going on in this very, very sensitive area of the village. And the builder is responsible and wants to do the right thing. So I just want to state that again. We've brought this, a planning board member and I have each brought this individually up to the planning board attorney, and he's taken a very narrow view that the subdivision, I think it was 2015, 16, somewhere around then, it was done legally and proper. So he sees no real issue or concern. We do kind of feel, at least one planning board member, one EPB member, and I think one member of the village board, from what I understand, at least from informal discussion, has an interest in finding some way to take a look comprehensively at this area being developed. And we're kind of stymied in how to approach that, given the fact that there was a subdivision done and it was done properly. So how do you look at something comprehensively when it's already legally been broken into individual plots? So the ask here, what I'm asking is a couple of possibilities. Would the village board be willing to ask the planning board attorney to make suggestions on how this can be done? He's the expert, I'm not, you're not. The response from the attorney many times has been, this was done properly and legally, but there's not been a real desire to look at, well, is there a plan B? Is there another way to approach this? So that's one possibility. The other possibility, you have members of the EPB, the planning board, and the village board, I think, who are interested in this issue. So perhaps we could get together and make some recommendations to the village board on some strategies or paths forward. And the third possibility, which I really don't favor very much, would be to have a committee, a broad committee like we did with the MBR, to spend some time, take a look at it and make recommendations to the village board. But the reason I'm speaking to you tonight is to see if the village board as a body has some interest in trying to explore a comprehensive look at that Millbrook Preserve Niffen area in terms of just guidance and thoughts in terms of future development, and do this, don't do that, watch out for this, some sorts of comprehensive thing, looking at the whole parcel as a comprehensive series of plots rather than plot by plot. Because as right now, the projects are being submitted to the planning board as they're sold. So there's one more plot in between the current 2 plots in front of the planning board, which will be sold and developed as soon as it has a buyer. So that's why it's going one by one. And we just want to see if there's some way to take a look at this area and just make sure as we go forward that we protect this jewel as best we can.
Don, do you have any thoughts on like what could be done differently if it was being looked at comprehensively as opposed to just the individual lots? Like what do you think would help?
Well, I think that would be the result of a discussion. I just learned about these latest projects about 2 weeks ago. I honestly, could give that some thought and answer your question, but But since I don't know if there's any enthusiasm broadly in the concept, I haven't really drilled down in terms of specific strategies or items. I just think it's generally in planning a good idea to take a look at things comprehensively, especially given the fact that there's a preserve immediately adjoining these properties. So I don't have an answer for your question yet, but that would be the goal of the effort I'm suggesting.
Don, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So-
the term is segmentation. If anyone, I started researching this when I was looking into going to law school before, an eviction kind of threw a wrench in those plans. I changed gears. And I'm just intrigued by it and hadn't thought about it in a long time until the most recent environmental policy board meeting, basically. And so I was reading up on it a bit more last night, and it's the same term comes up a lot in newer discussions about affordable housing as well, in terms of planning and zoning in a comprehensive way rather than piecemeal. So it's not only environmental, but it seems to be a concept that is important in all the intersections. Just want to throw that in.
So Tim, I think if the village board blesses this notion, this concept, and is not opposed to it, because we don't want to waste our time, I can go back to the EPB and we can come back, with some specific suggestions. But I just wanted to take the temperature of the village board, because I don't want to get in front of the skis here if you all don't think this is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, if there are some specific suggestions, and then I don't mind taking it on myself and relaying them to the planning board attorney to see, if there are ways to look at it more comprehensively. I'm curious myself. So, but yeah, give us a few concrete ideas to bounce them off of Rick Golden.
Okay, we'll get that on the next environmental policy board agenda to do that conversation. The second item arose out of this first item, the concern about septic systems so close to the Millbrook and Tributary 13. I have I just happen to know about the state of Ohio has recently approved a plug-and-play modular wastewater system in a box for residential use that would replace septic systems. And it's approved for use in Ohio. There's about 15 of them in operation residentially in Ohio. And it's called a membrane bioreactor. Essentially, it's a system that takes liquids from waste, all the urine and any liquid out of feces, and separates that and treats the liquid separately. As far as the solids, they introduce bugs into this reactor chamber that like to eat poop, and they heat it to the right temperature, and they make sure the bugs are healthy and hungry and happy. There's no science fiction movies in this. The bugs could not exist out of the reactor. They're not going to have bugs taking over New Paltz eating poop. But it's a modular system that essentially replaces the septic system. No excavation. What comes out of the system is not, I wouldn't drink it, but it meets discharge requirements. And I bring it up because Mr. Niffen is agreeable to looking at this sort of system for his properties near the Millbrook. Now, it would take a superhuman effort, I think, with the Department of Health in New York to get something approved in time for the first construction he has for that area, which he hopes to move forward in the spring. But there is this unsold parcel that may be around for a while. And I guess, the liaison to the planning board for the environmental policy board does not have the juice with the Department of Health to even probably have this discussion. I do have a guy's phone number up there, the guy who's in charge of residential septic, but I'm wondering if the village board would like to be a pioneer of this new technology in the village of New Paltz, and maybe someone there knows how to work the system, or knows someone in higher elected office, statewide office, who might be able to assist in this effort. So just throwing it out there. I will send you all an email after I get off the Zoom here with a link to this piece of equipment, which is, the technology is used by cities and towns everywhere around the world. It's very proven. Industries use it. It just has never been used for residences before. And I think if we could get rid of septic systems That is, yeah, that's a worthy goal.
Has it been used anywhere else in New York State?
No, it's only approved by regulators in Ohio, by the Ohio Board of Health. They're used municipally. Yes, widely used municipally in New York State. We have a trickling filter in our system, which is another sort of biological wastewater system. And this membrane bioreactor system is the next generation. It's the advance on that sort of technology. So I will shoot you some information, and I guess if anyone has any interest in trying to work with the state to make this happen, I'm certainly willing to do the work. I just don't have the juice. I don't have the position or the power or the authority to have anyone pay attention to me. So appreciate your interest if you have some, and I'll shoot you that email. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Don. Okay, so the next item is what I added before the meeting. So on November 3rd, when we met, we discussed the possibility of raising water rates, not sewer rates, temporarily, possibly for a 12-month period, because we're going to run into cash flow problems in terms of being able to service the debt. We borrowed a significant amount of money when we replaced our multi-million-dollar filtration unit up at the water treatment plant, and that was based on usage and billing pre-COVID. And now with softer numbers, for instance, the dorms are only 50% full, and the jury's out as to how many individuals will occupy the dorms in the springtime. We're going to need some help paying our bills, or we run into problems where we could default on the money that we borrowed. But taking a closer look at our cash flows, it seems like we might have to raise rates temporarily more than 10% and more than just within the 3 largest steps. Our treasurer has been trying to figure out a way that we could meet our financial obligations, and it seems like we might have to raise rates 20% across the board for all users in the town and the village. But again, this wouldn't be for sewer, and this is possibly only a temporary rate raise, and we would be looking to do it March 1st. So I just wanted to circle back with everyone on this concept. We have not made an official suggestion yet for the board to consider, but I just wanted to at least provide some update. And I can add that the village hasn't raised water rates since 2012.
Right.
And the point of view that I've been taking for a few years now is that we've been actively trying to source more water locally. So instead of buying 60% of our water from the New York City DEP, could we source more water locally from the groundwater wells? And that's an ongoing project where we're in the midst of trying to purchase 2.4 acres from the Mohonk Preserve. We have 2, which has a tested well on it that we drilled and tested and paid for all of that work. So we're moving forward on that project, and then we have the 2 wells that we drilled and tested for quality and yield that are on the northern portion of the Memorial Pool Park property, as well as 3 other wells on our water treatment plant property. So if we're able to connect those 6 wells, that will help us significantly with our cash flow, because sourcing local water is less expensive than buying DEP water that currently costs us $1.83 per 1,000 gallons. So official suggestion coming soon. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay, I motion that we consider resolution number 51 through 55 under item 4. And this has to do with awarding contracts for our fire station build that we had a very good outcome in terms of a number of bidders for this project, and now we're just going ahead and after the review process and making sure that the contractors were qualified, we wanted to go ahead and award the bids for the particular contractors. Can I do that all as 51 through 55? Ariana, are you okay with that?
Tim,
I'm pretty sure that you can.
Okay. What are you gonna say, Bill?
just that, this vote is a huge one. This is something we've been working on and building for so many years.
Second it, Bill.
Pardon me?
You need to second it first.
Well, I'm just adding to the discussion.
You second before discussion.
Okay, I'll second.
Thank you.
Sorry. Anyhow, having said that,
Sorry, I didn't mean to take the wind out of your sails.
yeah, you just lost one. That's good. No, it's just that it's a very big moment for.
I agree. Yes, and I wanted you to second and to talk about it. So go.
No, it's a very big moment for us and for our community, and the amount of work that our fire departments put into it, our communities put into it, Mayor Rogers, a whole group of people. It's just an extraordinary thing, and I'm sure Tim can elaborate a little bit more. But we're getting a much better building than we would have gotten had we accepted a bid about a year ago at a much lesser cost, at a much greater energy efficiency, and a safer building for our firefighters or volunteers. So I just wanted to throw that in there, and that's all I got. So I've seconded twice.
I think Tom Chesser from Palumbo is actually with us right now. And I just want to make sure with him, see if he wants to add anything, but also make sure that it's okay if we pass them as one motion.
Yeah, so I don't think it matters as long as we're talking. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry. This is Tom Chesser with the Palumbo Group. Sorry about that. This whole virtual thing is got me a little crazy. I don't think it matters as long as you're mentioning all the contracts. I think you probably should go through each one and explain each one, but I don't think you need to pass a motion for each individual contract.
Yeah, I can do that.
I don't know what I missed. I apologize. I had to jump off because I had screaming kids here. But just in a nutshell, we had a very good bid turnout. I heard the tail end of it that the numbers are under budget, which is great. We have a good project, a good green functioning building. So it's great. I'm so happy this is finally paying off for everyone. The team is good. We've gotten the paperwork together remarkably quick. The village has been great. The Gosier people, which usually take a lot longer, have been great. So the whole project's moving right more than we expected, better than we expected. So I'm very happy to report that I'm excited to start this project.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just list the different contractors. So we're awarding a bid to Meyer Contracting Corporation, another to SNL Plumbing, HV Electrical Construction and Maintenance, also to Green Meadows, and to Ashley Mechanical. Then we have details on each within this agenda if anyone wanted to read the details. And then, so we're also in the midst of, I think something that's really interesting and both Bill and Tom commented on. So, we put out bids for this project over a year ago with assistance from DASNY. That did not work out well. We were disappointed. We felt the numbers came in too high. We hit pause, and then we actually hired Rick Alfondre's firm to see if we could make some improvements to the building. We were originally told by several that the improvements that we wanted to make, including having it be more energy efficient, would end up costing us a lot more money. Rick and his team made some changes that actually probably made the building less expensive to construct and more energy efficient. So that's incredibly encouraging from an environmental perspective. I feel like when you push to make changes and try to be as environmentally mindful as possible. Sometimes it is economically defensible, and I think we actually now are, living a lot with that. That's exciting. And so we're gonna include details on the project that was bid on over a year ago versus this project, and then some details in terms of the changes and improvements that we make it a greener building. So that's a summary that's forthcoming. So my motion on the floor to approve. So Bill seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next item is the sewer reverse transfer regarding our CDBG 2018. This is, we're authorizing our treasurer to transfer $40,000 from the sewer reserve fund to the sewer fund to offset expenses associated with this 2018 project. The project is over budget by $70,000, so we're using $40,000 from the the sewer reserve fund. As we described earlier, this is incredibly important work because we can't risk not complying with our DEC consent order, and we absolutely do not want to pollute the Walk Hill River. So motion to go ahead and allow our treasurer to move these funds.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then motion to close the Moriel Pool project. And this is more of a housekeeping item. There was some money in a fund regarding a capital project for Moriel Pool that was done many, many years ago. So we're just closing out some funds and moving it back. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion to move bills and claims.
Second.
And bills and claims are just, regular periodic expenses in terms of, utility bills and, various other vendors that we use just to run the offices and operations here at Village Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Planning board liaison update.
Sure. Just one item on this past meeting was the Floyd Miffin proposal for the two homes up on Millbrook at 2131 Millbrook. Don Kerr mentioned when he just spoke with us about a visit to the site to check where well and septic systems were being placed. And from what I understand, he didn't see an issue with that. I haven't heard from the other members who did a site visit. The public hearing remains open. So they'll talk about it again on the 15th of December. I did have a chance to exchange an email and have a conversation with Floyd Miffin about the property he would like to give to the village for the Mohonk Reserve. It goes back to 2005, this offer that I guess has come and go over the years. And I'm in contact with one of our community members who was very much interested in seeing that happen. And he's going to get back to me after he has a chance to review his notes. He needs to refresh his memory exactly. My concern is there still a need for this property for the purposes that were expressed back 15 years ago? So I need to do a little bit more investigation on that. But I'll report back to the village board once I have some more details. So it was just a one item meeting, last meeting.
Thanks, Bill. Michelle, you want to comment on ZBA?
Yeah, ZBA had a public hearing for 66 South Chestnut for approval of a 5-bedroom. The vote was not approved. But I want to note that there was excellent participation from the community and lots of letters came in as well as comments on the YouTube channel. However, a couple of community members mentioned that they were not notified properly and they heard about it last minute, word of mouth. So I want to reopen the discussion on the possibility of perhaps certified mail or something, another means of communicating with the public, particularly right now during COVID. I don't know if it's presenting a challenge for our neighbors to find out about public hearings. So I just wanted to perhaps reopen that discussion for thought, maybe for a future meeting.
I appreciate the idea. I just wouldn't even know what other, I mean, I guess I'd have to look at and see if what other municipalities are doing, like what else could be done.
Yeah, we've had lengthy discussions about this, so we could just refer back to like our previous minutes on this topic.
Yeah, what happened for this particular meeting, there was an issue with the New Paltz Times. It was just some kind of accident that it didn't get posted. So just to have, I don't know if it's, COVID presents its own challenges. So perhaps, I'll dig up those notes and see if there's anything that feels relevant to COVID times, and also look at different municipalities.
Yeah, I did watch the meeting, and the thought occurred to me that this particular time, with people asked to stay home, not traveling a lot, doing only traveling out of their home for essential things, if you will. I think some people are doing that. That's a different set of circumstances that are being presented in notification. And I'm not sure if what we were doing at this point in time is doing it in a full way.
I don't think we have anything else on our agenda this evening. We can go ahead and motion to adjourn.
Is that a motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.